Hey y'all, happy Friday. It is the last day of February. I'm starting my juice fast tomorrow and I'm super psyched. I really am. I'm so ready to just get on that juice and stay there. I am. um, I I wanted to do another video today because some friends on Reach for Raw were talking, just not mentioning to anyone around them what they're doing or how they're eating or whatever because of the flack you take. And I don't remember if it was on the same thread or a different one. Somebody had mentioned that they were getting kind of made fun of for getting a whole bunch of bananas, and somebody said, "Oh, even the zoos aren't feeding bananas to the monkeys anymore because there's too much sugar in them." Okay, we're not going to go off too far on that one because I can really get going on that. I mean, my gosh, really? We know better now than nature and God what monkeys should eat? Get over yourselves, please. Just let somebody say that to me in a store. um, Basically, what it says, people were like, well, I just don't tell. I think it was that same thread. That's where we started. Bananas and monkeys. We have a good time on that group. Um, So somebody said, well, I just don't tell anybody. You know, only the people really, really close to me even know what I'm doing. And I've never taken that approach, but I can see where some people would if they're really in an area where they get a lot of grief over it. Because I'm not going to take grief over, my life choices. If you were to give someone grief because they've chosen to whatever lifestyle they've chosen. I mean, this is the day of allowing people the freedom to make their own choices about their life. But you tell someone that you're vegan, especially a raw vegan, and suddenly, they've all got something to say about it. At least other people have that experience. I really, very, very rarely have had anyone even question me. And I was just kind of joking. I said, well, I must either come across really, really authoritative or scary because nobody questions me. Now, this is a fairly small town. So, a lot of times when I'm talking to people about it, they're people who have seen me for a while and they know that 6 months ago I could barely walk unassisted, literally, and was clearly and obviously in intense pain all the time. I could put my smile on and be polite and make conversation. That's what an Oklahoma woman does. But I mean, it was pretty obvious how bad a shape I was in. I was 340 pounds and could barely get around on my own and was in pain and was very, very unhappy and had a lot of health problems. So when I go somewhere to pay a bill and I'm chatting with somebody and they're like, Miss Hodges, you look so much better. You're feeling a lot better these days, aren't you? And get started talking, and pretty soon the whole room's involved. That's also maybe an Oklahoma thing, I don't know. But you got, all the customers in line and all the other store employees all standing around talking about it. And just the other day, I was in the line to check out at the market, and the cashier knew me, and she said, "You've lost weight." I was like, "Why, yes, I have," and it's finally enough to start showing. Um, and she's like, well, are you on some kind of health kick or something? Because I had all these vegetables. And the two ladies in the line behind me started talking, joining in the conversation and all that. And not that one, not even one person said, where's you get your protein? And that I do get that, but people say it as an actual question. They don't say it accusingly, like, well, you're not going to get enough protein that way, or they're like, well, what about protein? Or if they know me very well and they know I have this bone disease, they say, what about calcium? And I'll answer their questions. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't know that. That's really cool. But here's the thing, almost invariably, um, it always ends up the same way. These conversations always end up the same way. Boy, I wish I could do that. I just don't have that much willpower. And on the Reboot with Joe site, I've gotten that a lot there too. Uh, you know, I was trying so hard, but yesterday I just found myself stuffing this or that in my mouth and without even thinking. I just don't have any willpower. And people who, hear my story say, oh my goodness, I wish I had your willpower. You have such great willpower. And I've heard it so many times, and I usually just joke it off. I'm like, nope. Do I look like I have willpower? I mean, come on, people, really? Take a good look. I've spent a good 35 years of my life being told I didn't have enough of this elusive willpower, that really all that was involved, losing weight is really very simple. You eat less and move more. Eat less and move more. Calories in, calories out. Willpower. Just say no. Put down the fork. Well, I am here to tell you it's not about willpower. It is not one tiny little bit about willpower. People as overweight as I am, or more overweight, or even, less overweight, if you've been battling obesity for decades like I have, you've tried diets. You've tried every diet that came out that sounded like it might make a modicum of sense. And every single one has failed, or you wouldn't be here trying this now. They may have succeeded a little bit for a little while or whatever, but and ultimately they failed. And, if you're susceptible to that kind of thing, you were made to feel that you failed. And sometimes I did. Sometimes I felt like I failed. Oh, this should work. This should work if I was capable of it, if I had enough willpower. What nobody was telling us is that all these foods, even the healthy ones that this diet or that diet was telling us to eat, the so-called healthy ones, the ones that were healthy according to that particular guru, were addictive. They were addictive. They were feeding us crack and then condemning us because we couldn't stop using it, and they weren't telling us that it was crack. Supposedly, it was completely harmless and good for us, but so we should be able to, eat as much as we need and then stop. Well, you tell that to the next crackhead you see. You tell that to the next alcoholic you see. Say, well, there's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine. I know you're a hardcore alcoholic, and you've been drinking too much for 20 years, and you got a soaked brain. But all you got to do is just have a glass of wine in the morning, and then put the bottle away, and then have a glass of wine at lunch, and then put the bottle away, and then have a glass of wine at supper, and put the bottle away. And in the meantime, while you're going through withdrawal, I want you to get out and jog. You tell them that next time, all right? And then you tell them, if you can't do that, you just don't have enough willpower. It's kind of hard to go really into detail and explain what I mean, but I mean it. I'm serious. I do not believe in willpower, and please don't tell your children that they're failing at things that they try because they're just not using enough willpower. Please don't. And don't tell yourself that. Don't say, oh, I could have done that if I'd have just had enough willpower. Don't do it. Once the addictive substances were out of my body, it's not an effort. It's not a hard thing to do. Now, there may be a bit of a mental battle too, and maybe that's what people are wanting to call willpower. But I don't, and I won't. Once the addictive substances are out of your body and you're clean and detoxed, there's no willpower involved. You're just free, and you just do it. Now, we've also had conversations on the group about, because we've had decades of habit, of, ingrained habit of this is what you reach for when you want, we call them comfort foods, whatever is your comfort food or whatever. Yeah, there may be times when you get overwhelmed by things that are taking the uppermost in your brain for a while. You know, you've got this going on and that going on, and this stress and that stress. Kill me a dog. You know, if you just under a lot of stress and you've got a lot going on, and you know, you've got that doctor's appointment with the kids and a fight with your husband this morning, and pressure at work, and the car is going to need expensive repairs and this and that, you know, and suddenly you find yourself reaching for something, and or maybe even halfway through eating it, and all of a sudden you realize what you're doing. um, is that because you suddenly lost your willpower? No, it's because your conscious brain was so occupied with all this going on that you know, your old ingrained habits just took over because you weren't there, you know, driving the ship or guiding the ship. You know, you take your hands off the steering wheel, it's going to drift to wherever gravity takes it. So you have to keep this forefront in your mind, even when other stuff's going on. This has to be a priority until it becomes such an ingrained habit that it overtakes the habit of, for some of us, decades. And yeah, it's going to take some time, but it's not a matter of willpower. It's a matter of getting the addictive substances out of your body so that you can make sound choices based on what you learn about what your body needs, instead of just reacting to the addiction. So that's my views on willpower. So juice on, we got this. You are so amazing because you have willpower. Gadget, would you get off me? Get off me, dog. Yeah, taking bananas away from the monkeys. Good lord. I mean, really. I could, yeah. Mm, 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 mm. Ooh, there's a beautiful cardinal in my tree. Hey, pretty boy. My goodness, the birds in my trees were going this morning. They were saying, spring's here, wake your butt up. Anyway, back to the subject. I also think I've mentioned I'm a little ADD.